Welcome to the Tech Blog Writer Podcast, your guide to future tech trends and innovation in a language you understand. Now, over to your host, Neil Hughes.
Welcome back to the Tech Blog Writer Podcast. Now, on my quest to unearth the technology that's transforming brands, organisations, and indeed entire industries, my journey recently led me to a company called Conga. Now, Conga is a company that helps 11,000 companies, including some huge names such as Hilton, Salesforce, AWS, GE, and so many more. And it's helping them leverage AI and machine learning to unlock the power of the data that lies within their business documents. With every business today relying on contracts, coupled by the fact that people hate to negotiate, Conga has a leading role in an organisation's digital transformation journey. And fun fact of the day, Conga generates more contacts than any other company in the world, which is close to 10 million a year. And they're also a top partner for Salesforce and rated number 1 in the App Exchange. So buckle up and hold on tight so I can beam your ears all the way to New York so we can speak with Jason Gabbard, Head of AI Strategy at Conga, who's going to tell us all about Conga and how artificial intelligence and how businesses can leverage AI and machine learning to unlock the power of the data that lies within their business documents. So a massive warm welcome to the show, Jason. Can you tell the listeners a little about who you are and what you do?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me as well. So my name is Jason Gabbard. I'm the head of AI at Conga, and Conga is a digital document transformation company headquartered out of Colorado. I'm based in New York, as you know, and in my capacity as head of AI strategy, I sort of split my time between sales, marketing, and product. Over the last 6 to 9 months, I've been heavily focused on the product. As you know, we recently relaunched our AI product. And before I came to Conga, I was the founder and CEO of a company called Counsalytics. And Counsalytics was originally a legal technology company. Between 2014 when I started it and 2018 when it was acquired by Conga, it started to become known as an artificial intelligence company, obviously much sexier, but yeah, so I've been over at Conga about a year, and we're in a super exciting time here, releasing the product and continuing to march ahead.
Fantastic. Now, there will be a lot of people listening from all over the world hearing about Conga for the very first time. So could I ask that you maybe set the scene and tell the listeners a little bit more about your mission, which is to actually transform the way companies interact with documents?
Absolutely. So I guess we should take a step back, and, you know, at the core of Conga is something called contract lifecycle management, and oftentimes referred to by the acronym CLM. A lot of people don't really understand what CLM is, and I think for me the best way to explain it is that it sort of grew out of the limitations of historical document management. So, you know, way back in the early 2000s, I guess I'm dating myself a bit, but back in the early 2000s when I was a practicing attorney, you know, we had a system where we would store hundreds of thousands of client documents, and oftentimes we would only tag them, you know, sort of manually with very limited information like the title of the document, you know, who authored it, who edited it, when it was created, when it was signed, etc. Obviously, you know, when you reach a certain scale, it's very difficult to find information. So, you know, we'd oftentimes get a call from a client that would say, "Hey, you know, that deal we did a couple of years ago, when do I have the right to terminate that?" or something like that. And of course, anytime you get a question like that, you're, you know, back into that system, number one, probably spending a couple hours just trying to find the relevant document. And then, you know, when you find it, you're reading it all over again. And you could imagine, you know, multiple flavors of that sort of exercise. And so contract lifecycle management is really a nod to the fact that these documents do have long lives. So, you know, oftentimes you'll see, say, a commercial lease will carry on for, you know, 14 or more years. And each year of the lease, something will change. You know, either the price will change, or there could be an opportunity to renew or to cancel, so on and so forth. And so sort of tracking those ebbs and flows of a contract over its life is really important and useful exercise for the business. And that's what contract lifecycle management does. And that's what's at the core of Conga's suite of products. So, around that core of contract lifecycle management, we have ancillary products. So we have products to help, create documents. So we've been in the robotic process automation game for almost 10 years. And we have a tool that is extremely useful and probably the leading tool in the marketplace for authoring documents. So using robotic process automation to create documents faster and more consistently. And then, tools for negotiating documents, tools for making proposals to clients. And then, once documents are signed and inside the CLM, we also have tools for reporting, et cetera, et cetera. So we really take you from sort of inception, from proposal to negotiation to signing. We have our own digital signature tool to management over the life cycle, and then, reporting, business intelligence, all the way up to renewal or termination. And artificial intelligence, now we're using it in the capacity of AI Analyze, but we think artificial intelligence really has an opportunity to kind of help our user base and help knowledge workers at each step of that process.
And speaking of artificial intelligence, Conga recently announced a new solution that leverages machine learning to analyze information within contracts and actually use those insights to help move the business forward. So can I ask you to expand on that and tell me a little bit more about AI Analyze?
Absolutely. So AI Analyze is really kind of the rebirth of the product that I built at Counsalytics. And it's really our beachhead in the artificial intelligence offering around that CLM system. So I mentioned that we think there are multiple touch points within the entire contracting process. And AI Analyze is obviously the first and probably the largest, but it's primarily a tool designed to work in conjunction with our CLM. It solves three sort of prototypical problems that people experience when implementing and using a CLM system. And those problems kind of revolve around the use cases as follows. Legacy paper, so meaning, stuff you signed way back when before you had a CLM. Third-party paper, meaning stuff that someone other than you authored, so it's not your form. And then the third is unanticipated change. And so unanticipated change could be any number of things. It could be the move away from LIBOR, where you need to go through a bunch of loan documents to understand which ones are dependent on LIBOR and which ones need to be repapered. Or it could be something like Brexit, where you're sort of scratching your head saying, wow, I have 200,000 contracts. Where's this implicated? So Conga AI Analyze is a tool that really squarely addresses those three use cases and pain points.
I wasn't prepared for you to drop the B word on me there. Never mentioned the B word, Jason.
Yeah, I'm an FT reader, so every single morning I'm reading about Brexit. Luck, Peter.
Cheers, mate. Now, there will be business leaders listening from organisations scattered across a wide variety of industries. So what type of organisations is it that can actually benefit from AI Analyze, do you think? And why is that solution so beneficial for your clients?
Well, it really, it runs the gamut. Let me answer the last part of that question first, which is why it's so beneficial. It's beneficial because none of us have enough time. I don't know about you, but I spend most of my day trying to catch up, running to the next meeting or trying to get something off my desk. And, in this fast-paced digital world, we've gotten really good at creating content. By some estimates, we're doubling our digital content every 90 days. I looked at my email yesterday. I had, 45 unread messages. I looked at Slack. I must have had over 1,000 unread messages, all digital content that someone's trying to get on top of. And it's the same with contracts. We're really good at pushing paper around now, so-called paper. So having a tool that can kind of augment your workflows and help you, get there faster and kind of automate some of these repetitive processes is really useful. And, it saves a lot of important people time. And so, with that said, almost anyone can use it. Now, reality is, unless you probably have more than, say, 75 employees, you're likely not kind of reaching the scale that you would need a tool like this. But, we do have some clients that are, in that sort of 50 to 75 employee range. really kind of just depends on the scale of the business. So if you see a business that's, kind of highly leveraged and using money as a tool to scale, then they're probably creating a lot of documents. We see that a lot with, financial services, for example.
And if we do have anybody listening that's really interested, maybe help them visualize exactly what you do. Is there any way you can share some of your Conga's customers and the use cases that they've got that will just help people listening highlight how a business has benefited from working with Conga to automate and accelerate the review, approval, and ultimately the analysis of contracts?
Yeah, sure. So, just recently we had a big customer event in New York City, fantastic event, had hundreds of customers from all over the world come through to, hear the latest and greatest out of Conga. And obviously we announced the AI Analyze product at that event. And we did share 2 use cases there. And so I'm more than happy to share those with you. And so one of the use cases was in financial services, as I just mentioned. I believe it's a sort of top 10-ish hedge fund in the world. They move around a little bit from year to year, but kind of in that top 10 range in terms of assets under management. Relatively small firm by headcount, managing $20-some billion, but I think around 75 employees. And the legal department is extremely lean. I believe they have something like 6 attorneys on staff, obviously doing a lot of transactions. And so those attorneys stay extremely busy, focused on the big picture, the deals and getting the deals vetted and signed, so on and so forth. And they're kind of inundated with NDAs. Every time they look at an opportunity, there's a new NDA. Typically, it's on third-party paper. And, these are highly paid professionals. And so any time we can save them is extremely valuable. And so they'll use our product to, when those NDAs come through the door, they basically test them against their expectation or their gold standard. So they have a kind of what we call a blueprint that's keyed to their version of an NDA, so to their paper. And they can put it into Conga AI Analyze, and within 3 seconds, they'll have back a report that tells how it stacks up against their expectations. So, we've probably gone from 15 minutes of their time to about 3 seconds to get that kind of first triage done. And the second use case we shared was in commercial real estate. It's a firm headquartered out of the Northeast here in the U.S. And, I think they have something like 140 office buildings. And they recently acquired a new asset, new office property. And so they use the tool not only to kind of do the diligence on the leases, to kind of do that first pass and identify some red flags, but they also use the tool to, take that all that information and put it into a structured form. So going from kind of the long form written text to the key data points and the key clauses. And once they did that, we were able to seamlessly push it into their accounting system. So not only did we help them get the deal closed faster, but we also helped them get that key data into the billing system, into the accounting system, so they could get the invoices out faster, sort of hit the ground running with that new asset. So really, you're seeing a few different ways it sort of penetrates the system of record there with the diligence, with the accounting system and billing and so on and so forth. Really interesting use case on that one.
And of course, there will be a lot of listeners listening in that will be thinking about the ROI and ticking that what's in it for me box. So could I just ask you to delve a little bit deeper and talk about some of the specifics on the benefits for Conga for businesses? And by that, I mean such as negotiating and closing deals faster than before, and also how it helps companies actually generate more revenue.
So the benefits are varied. The example I just gave you, so we're obviously, we're getting you to a deal faster. Yeah. If you can get your diligence done quicker than the next firm, then you're going to have a competitive advantage in a sort of competitive asset acquisition environment. So that's obviously one benefit. Assuring consistency across the documents is another. And that kind of has, it's difficult to quantify the ROI on something like that. If you can say that, you're following a consistent set of standards on your documents. I think what we typically see in the way that users often evaluate the use is something called contract leakage. And so if you look at, most of the major consulting firms, McKinsey, Ernst & Young, et cetera, they'll provide you with some measure of ordinary contract leakage. And what contract leakage really means is how much of the value of your documents, of your contracts, is seeping out because you are ineffectively managing them. And most estimates are somewhere between 15 and 20%. So meaning if you have a contract worth $100 and you're not on top of the ebbs and flows and the changes in that contract, you'll probably lose somewhere between 15 and 20 bucks. And so that's a pretty significant loss when you think about it. Look at an organization, say the scale of Honeywell or General Electric. Obviously, millions of contracts. Each contract could be millions of dollars. And so if you're not on top of that contract and doing everything you can to eliminate that contract seepage, then losses will be sort of exponentially scaling across the organization.
Now, we are living in an always online world now where the digital transformation is proving to be much more than a buzzword, and it's actually crucial to businesses. So how do you think businesses can prepare and ensure that they are fully digitally transformed in this area?
Yeah. So, truthfully, it was a buzzword, right?
Yeah.
And then here comes a company like Conga that's pouring the meaning into it. So we're here to put the meaning into it, and I think we're doing a great job of it. In my world, when we talk about artificial intelligence, the number one thing that I tell people when they're preparing for an initiative is it's all about the data. Machine learning is all about the data. Everyone talks about their algorithms. Truth of the matter is we're kind of all using pretty standard algorithms. They're all pretty widely known. There hasn't been a new natural language processing algorithm in, 7 or 8 years. So it's not like any firm out there is, pushing forward on a scientific front, releasing, the latest and greatest algorithm every day. So it's all about the data, garbage in, garbage out. And so if you're a firm preparing for an artificial intelligence initiative, you're going to need a lot of clean data. And most firms don't have that. And so what we mean by clean data is, you have to feed something into the engine in order to teach it to start to classify. And once you can classify a section of a document, then you probably want to extract key data points, which is another machine learning exercise. So firms will oftentimes need to get hundreds or thousands of contracts together, review them, tag them for what's important to the firm. So they may say, this is the renewal clause, and here's the notice period. You need 30 days notice to renew. So just getting your contracts in shape, getting them together in one place where you can say, here are all my, master services agreements. These are all the ones that I've signed in the last 10 years. Here's a representative sample of, 150 or so that I'm ready to use for training purposes. It's a really important exercise that a lot of organizations just have not even scratched the surface on. And once you do that, once you've started training, you may, these algorithms learn on an asymptotic curve. So you'll start to see results, pretty immediately, but they'll be, less than proficient, less than acceptable results. You may be getting 40, 50% after showing the algorithm, 50, 60 examples. But to really get up into the 80s and 90s, which is what most organizations are looking for, it just takes a lot of repetition. So, a lot of kind of elbow grease, as my mother would say. So it's important to get started now. It's important to get your data sets together. And it's important to be patient.
Now, I recently read that Conga, I think, surpassed 900,000 users right across your suite. So it's clear that 2019 is shaping up to be an incredible year for Conga. But is there anything else that you can share about the road ahead or anything that you're excited about?
Yeah, it's unbelievable the way the firm has grown over the last 5-6 years. It certainly feels like a rocket ship. And, I think we view the enemies as complacency and paper. So, fighting complacency internally, fighting it amongst our customers, pushing them to continue to scale up that maturity model of the CLM, doing that through great customer service. I think for us, it's more of the same. It really is. We've had a great run. We're going to continue to have a great run, and you'll see us integrating artificial intelligence across the suite of products, and you'll see the unification of the products become tighter and more seamless. But we're in a great place, and I think we can continue to work hard and push forward.
So if anyone listening wants to find out more information about the work that you're doing there, or even left with a few questions that they'd just like to chat with your team about, what's the best way of reaching out?
So, of course, we have a great website, Conga.com. I'm more than happy to speak with anyone directly. Feel free to share my email address with anyone that might like it, or post it alongside the podcast. And then also you'll see, we have offices in the UK. We have multiple offices in the US, have offices out in Australia. All the contact information for each office is on the website. So we're all happy to talk to new people and understand, pain points and use cases and try to find a solution.
Well, thanks so much for coming on today. I love everything you've talked about. And like you said, if you delve beyond the tech buzzwords, it is all about the data now. And I love how your biggest enemies that you see is not your competitors, but complacency and paper. Absolutely love that line. But more than anything, just a big thank you for coming on and sharing Conga's story today. Thank you.
Thank you, Neil.
For those of you that thought artificial intelligence was overhyped, I would argue that it's underhyped. Conga is just one example of how an AI-powered solution is helping companies unleash the potential of everyday business documents and accelerate contract negotiations and close deals faster than ever before. So there's your ROI right there. But after the conversation, I'm now left thinking, what happens to companies that don't clean up their data? And let's be honest, that's most companies out there, and they're all battling with garbage in, garbage out. So how long until they fall behind? Or there is also an argument, of course, that they're already behind. But if you want to comment on this or any aspect of today's podcast, or indeed any interview that you hear this week, please email me, techblogwriter@outlook.com, pop by my website, techblogwriter.co.uk, or catch me on Twitter or Instagram or LinkedIn, which is just at Neil C. Hughes. But I'm afraid we've reached our final destination today, so it's time for me to take a break until I return again at the same time tomorrow. So all that's left for me to say is a big thank you for listening, and until next time, don't be a stranger.
Thanks for listening to the Tech Blog Writer Podcast. Until next time, remember, technology is best when it brings people together.